Anybody have any questions? All right.
You were saying earlier that you've been impressed by the recovery process, but at the other end of that, are there things that you're seeing that haven't happened this quickly, maybe as the cleanup, or other things you'd like to see improved during this whole process?
Well, let me say this, every area is different. There have been some cities that have, like here, they've gone to work, they're doing their job, they're cleaning up, they're doing exactly what we asked them to do. There have been some cities that have procrastinated and we've had to get on to them. I did that last week in Birmingham, and I talked to Birmingham, but now they have gone to work. And so now they're cleaning up. And so basically, we have obstacles that come up, but what we do with obstacles is we move those obstacles out of the way and we just move forward, and that's what we've done. That's just like cleaning up the lake. They were trying to decide who they were going to contract with, what agency in the state, and I just said contract with the governor's office. That's who ultimately is the one that's going to take care of it. And so that's what they're going to do. And so you just have to make the decisions necessary to move the process forward. There are always going to be problems and questions. There are going to be different people in different areas of the state, and sometimes you have to prod them along a little bit more. And if we have to do that as a governor, I'll do that. But most people have been very cooperative. Most people have worked so hard, and most people have taken a leadership role on a local level, and that's why we've progressed as well as we have.
Will the cleanup efforts cost? Any idea?
We really don't know yet. We're waiting on. We will have to. Well, let me say this. There are some thresholds that we're waiting for, as far as we know of the cost, and of course we've worked on a state level. We have given the locals a 30-day reprieve on their part that they will have to pay, and that is to be calculated either from the time they contracted with the Corps or when they gave the order to proceed to a private entity. That was when it started. And so that was a 30-day window there that we were going to help them. Now, we're also negotiating on some other, like 90-10 versus 75-25, things like this with FEMA, and we're negotiating with those right now. And we don't want to confuse people, so we're not going to talk about those right now.
Will the water be lowered for cleanup?
No.
When will the Army Corps of Engineers start cleaning up the lake?
I've been told next week.
I'm sorry?
I have a contract to go.
I think they're starting the process next week, sir.
Next week, we're hoping. Let's just say that is the goal. Next week is the goal to begin. That's always a goal. Okay.
Is there a timeline on how long it would take to clean up the lake?
We're going to make sure it's clean.
And until it's completed, what further safety how are we hoping to keep the boaters safe?
Well, what we need to continue to do, let me tell you, y'all help, all right? So y'all continue to warn people that when they come into areas like this where there's debris, they're going to have to be careful. They could go very slowly, but they're coming at their own risk. There are areas of the lake, many areas of the lake that are not impaired at all. There's no debris, and it's fine. So they need to realize that. And the best thing to do is to stay in those areas. But if they come into these areas, they've got to be very careful.
Governor Bentley, hi, I'm Elizabeth White with Channel 9 News. Nice to meet you. What's the biggest challenge now, a month out? What's the biggest challenge at this point?
Well, I think that there are many challenges, but in each one, it's like I say, there are different areas. The debris cleanup is what people like to see first because then they see some progress. But we've got to make sure of several things. Number one is we've got to make sure that if there are businesses that have been damaged, that we get those businesses operating. We've got to get people back to work. That's a very important goal to do. Make sure that businesses are open again. Then we've got to make sure that there's housing for people. And there's some parts of the state where right now we're providing, at least FEMA's providing, for vouchers for them to stay in temporary housing, and then we'll get some long-term temporary housing, whether it be trailers or whatever it may be, and then help them get into some permanent housing. I think jobs and housing is really the most important.
And Art had some astronomical numbers. How many people were put out of business when 65% of the state was affected by these tornadoes? Do you have any numbers on that?
Well, I know that in Tuscaloosa, let me say this, in Tuscaloosa, I just gave a press conference on businesses. There were 1,000 businesses that were affected, 7,500 people were affected, and that's $270 million. I remember those figures, but they went to work there on a local level and did a fantastic job. The local West Alabama Chamber of Commerce did, and they did a great job of helping those people get their businesses open and rebuilt, because in Tuscaloosa, if you look at Joplin, Missouri, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, there is no difference. They just lost more lives in Joplin, but there's no difference in looking at the two.
And cleanups, when 65% of the state is affected, how long is this process going to take?
Well, I think it's going to take months. But but you see right now, I mean, you see a tremendous effort here and a tremendous amount of progress compared to what I saw the last time I was here. This is fantastic.
And when you travel to all these places and you meet all these people who may have lost everything in the storm, how are you able to stay hopeful, that this recovery process is going to move along for these people that lost everything? How do you, give hope to them as governor?
Well, I think that you just do everything that you possibly can to provide for them what we have available, and provide for the cities that clean up their area, whatever is available to them. And all we can do is provide to the cities. I mean, a lot of times it still gets down to, for instance, there is a city in the state, and I won't name their name, they will not allow any temporary housing that's a single wide housing into the city. But that's a local ordinance. Now, do we as a state want to go in and go against a local authority? We really don't want to do that. We can encourage, and that's what we do. We encourage, and we can encourage sometimes by using the match as an encouragement. But still, we want to respect local authorities and local cities and their ordinances. And as governor, what I can do is I can shame them a lot of times, like I did Birmingham last week. But we still believe that local authorities ought to have some local autonomy and make some decisions for themselves.
And is there anything that you've learned about the state of Alabama as a whole, or the people that live here through this process?
Well, I didn't learn something I didn't already know. I told the president on the third day after this disaster, I said, you are entering the best state in the country. He said, well, you'd say that, you're the governor of Alabama. I said, no. I said, you watch how the people of Alabama respond to this disaster. And I said, you'll see that Alabama is the best state. I said, we give more per capita to charities than any state in the country. And I said, we need your help. We need FEMA's help. But I said, even if we don't get FEMA's help, we're going to look after each other. We're going to take care of each other. And if people look at Alabama, they see that. We've got a great state. We've got great people in this state, and we love each other, and we're going to take care of each other.
So has the president told you that Alabama's the best state yet?
No, he hasn't said that yet, because he's running for president. And he probably is not going to win Alabama regardless of what he says. But let me say this. I appreciate the president coming, and I appreciate the fact that he toured in this state for 2.5 hours, and I toured with him. And I appreciate the fact that he was willing to come and visit a state where he probably is not going to win, but he cares about this nation, and he cares about the people of Alabama. Just like I go to Sumter County. Am I going to win Sumter County? No, I'm not going to, but I love those people, and I'm going to do everything I can for those people. We ought to set aside party differences. We ought to set aside racial differences. When you have a tragedy, you work together, and it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, whatever it is, we work together, and we're going to get this thing solved.
Last question. Anybody else? Thanks, everybody.
Hey, thank y'all. Thank y'all for coming out. And again, let me thank the press. We thanked y'all the other day in a resolution. I want to thank the press, and I want to thank the people who do the weather in this state. They save many lives, and I want y'all to know how much I appreciate it. Now, usually the press, y'all will write things or say things about me that I may not agree with, but let me tell you, y'all, I want to tell you how much I appreciate what you have done, because it has made a difference in the state. You have kept in the forefront the problem in Alabama, because Alabama's problem is greater than any of these other states. And so we need to keep everybody's mind on Alabama. And we're going to continue to do that, and y'all have helped us do that. So thank you very much. Thank y'all.